Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blue Jays. Today we're going to go over Jorge Soler's free agency, where he'll fall, and maybe if he'll be a Blue Jay. Then we're going to get into the top prospects list that came out, where the Blue Jays fall, and how well we're doing in that regard. Then another episode of our player profiles.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, Carter, in a different setup here.
One fans that aren't necessarily going to be used to. Do you want to kind of elaborate why we're stuck like this today?
Yeah, so I got a PC that I do all my editing on for these podcasts and whatever, and we use it to record. And of course, Microsoft has a problem logging in with PIN codes. So I looked it up online. Apparently, there's like 5,000 other people with the same problem right now. I found out a workaround, but it was too late. Carter had to go back to town. I'm heading back today. So we're just like, you know what? We're just going to do it over like this. So we'll see. Let us know what you guys think. We're going to go back to the in-studio stuff we got. We're going to, try to add some stuff to the set slowly and make it look a little bit nicer, whatever. But yeah, I think this will be fine. I don't hate how this is set up at all.
Yeah, the joys of technology, hey? $2,000 PC, and it doesn't matter when you can't sign into the laptop or your PC, unfortunately. But yeah,
well, and it doesn't help that I go and try to call Microsoft, and I'm like, hey, I just want to talk to a human being, and they keep trying to send me to the website. It's like I'm not that it doesn't help. I'm trying. I've tried the website 4 times already.
Well, that's the thing. These artificial intelligences, they don't want you to refer to the humans. They want you to kind of stay with them. Maybe they're thinking for the long term here. Yeah, you never know. We're getting into some conspiracy theories here, but I think we'll turn it kind of back to Blue Jays baseball. Unfortunately, Joc Pederson has signed with the D-backs. He has a 1 year at $9.5 million deal. Does have a mutual option with the club through 2025, but that is one guy the Jays were linked to sign for this offseason for their outfield. But that leaves kind of one big player that I have been in on since the start of free agency. In our audition tape for this podcast, actually, I had him going to the Blue Jays, and hopefully that I am correct in this analysis. But the guy is Jorge Soler, a guy we've sort of referenced on this podcast before. But Braden, I'm going to give it over to you to kind of break down his stats.
Yeah, so Jorge Soler played 137 games last year, 36 home runs, 75 RBIs, 141 strikeouts, batting average of 250, and he had a slugging percentage of 512. Did you have his on-base percentage as well?
His on-base is 341. So, yeah, you'll take that for sure.
Yeah. And, I don't know. Like, do you think that he is a realistic fit for this team? I know that even before we started this podcast and we put in our demo tape to get Locked On Blue Jays, you picked Jorge Soler as one of your guys.
Yeah, the 3 guys that I was hoping for, obviously I knew we weren't going to get all 3, but I wanted Jorge Soler as my first one, then JD Martinez, who is still available. And then the other one was Rhys Hoskins, who did sign a couple days ago. But yeah, with Jorge Soler, the biggest number that we see as Jays fans, I think that we should see, is the 36 home runs. We didn't even have a Jays sniff that this year. Instead of the Jays kind of brand last year was like, oh, you had to get 4 or 5 hits in an inning to kind of get some runs. You get Jorge Soler in this lineup, you get one runner on for him, one swing of the bat. This guy's driving the ball 430, and it's going to be real fun to watch. Instead of like these big rallies, like I was saying, just one swing of the bat and change the ball game.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and it is tough, right? Because that was a struggle point for us last year. Was we'd get guys on base, but we just couldn't drive them in, right? We couldn't string together hits. So maybe this team, hopefully they figure that out, and it looks like we've said, a couple guys have been, switched some things up, trying some new things. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to take home runs, right? And if you can get a guy that's going to swing the bat and hit you 36 home runs, or, even if he hits us 30 home runs, that's above and beyond what we need. So, I don't know. Do you think this is like a realistic possibility that the Blue Jays land him?
Yeah, when you look at the Blue Jays free agency, obviously the big one before we kind of got into these other talks was Shohei Ohtani. Obviously signed with the Dodgers, but if the Jays were willing to throw $600+ million at one player, I think that's kind of Ross made a statement at the start of this free agency saying we're here, we're in for with everyone, every deal. We're ready to like. He knows that the Jays are kind of losing their window here with their players. So he knows that the Jays need a big move. These fans are asking for a big move, and Jorge Soler should be that big move. Not the greatest defender, but I think last year, like obviously we have George Springer, Dalton Varsho, and Kevin Kiermaier, three center fielders just playing in the outfield. Obviously, all Gold Glove winners, great defensive outfielders. So throwing in a guy like Jorge Soler, even just if we're up big, kind of just giving Dalton Varsho or Kevin Kiermaier a break. Obviously, not going to play center field, but I think that the Jays need a guy that's just kind of funny to watch in the outfield. Obviously, we don't want him to be horrible, and we don't want him to like make errors at bad times. But if we're up 10-1, you throw Jorge Soler in the outfield, kind of watch him just maybe dive for a ball, miss it badly. I think that's something we need for an entertainment standpoint for Jays fans. But the reason that we're getting this guy is for his hitting, for sure.
Yeah. So like you said, I mean, he's not going to play the outfield. He's going to DH. And I'm fine with that. To be honest with you, we just need some bats, right? We need some bats badly. And if this is what I hope is I hope it's not Jorge Soler and nothing, right? Like I hope it's Jorge Soler, a couple trades, maybe a big trade. Maybe we don't need a couple, but maybe a one big one, and maybe that's all we need. And I don't know. Again, like you do your research a little bit into Jorge Soler, and you think, okay, is he actually coming to the Jays? And I'd love to be able to say yes, I think he's going to be a Blue Jay. The problem is that I thought a lot of guys this offseason could be Blue Jays, and it turns out none of them have been. So what I could see happening is us not really getting him, and then not getting anybody and going through the season, and then hoping that Ross finds out a way to make a trade here. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's how you feel, but
I think that would be probably worst case scenario. Jays fan, like, what are you supposed to be excited about for the season if our offseason move was IKF? Like that doesn't move the needle. It doesn't get people excited about this team. Like Jays, like all these other teams are making moves. You get the Red Sox, like obviously the Yankees have Soto, like all the Orioles have a million prospects that we'll get into later. But the Jays, they haven't done anything, and their bats were not good last year. So I think it's not necessarily like we need Jorge Soler because it's Jorge Soler and this is exactly what we want. We need somebody to hit the ball. That's literally, we have all the defense in the world. We have a million Swiss Army knives that can play left field, third base, second base, whatever. We have all the defense we need in the world. We need a guy that can hit home runs, hit for power, hit in clutch situations, and drive runners in. We had one of the best pitching staffs in baseball last year. So we need some guys to supplement our game and that can hit home runs and change games and come up with these clutch hits in big situations.
yeah, I mean it, and this is sort of I'm gonna give you a situation, okay? Shohei Ohtani, everybody, all the Blue Jays fans think we're getting him, right? Around that time, somebody comes to you and they say, we're not going to get Ohtani, but we're going to just get IKF, and that's going to be our free agency. At that time, looking at being so high on Ohtani, and then to have the knowledge now of the only move we've made is IKF, like how frustrating is that to you right now?
Oh, that makes me sick just thinking about that. If you would have told me like while we're in the Shohei Ohtani hunt, Cody Bellinger, all these big names, you're like, no, you're not getting any of those guys. You're getting IKF. I would say you're ridiculous. Ross has something cooking here. He's got to have something going on behind the scenes. He wouldn't let this team go in with just IKF and Kevin Kiermaier. One thing that could be turning him away a little bit in this market is Jorge Soler has had injury problems. I know that last year obviously was fairly healthy throughout the entire year. I think it was I might be confusing the years, but I believe it was 2021 where he had over 30 home runs, and then his big year was 2019 where he hit around I think it was 47, 48. So this guy has shown that he can even get better than this. So the problem is that we need to keep this guy healthy, but it works out perfectly because he's going to be DHing the majority of the time anyway.
Yeah, that I think that's a good way to keep him out of injury trouble, right? Is just have him hit the ball. That's the only reason we're getting him. Let him hit the ball. Keep Varsho in the field. Keep Kiermaier in the field. Keep Springer in the field as much as possible, and just let this guy just eat, right? But you did allude to the fact that there are other teams that have a lot of up and coming players, or players that were up and coming in the last few years and are now making huge differences on the ball clubs. So we're going to get into that with the new top prospects list that just came out.
And one thing I hate about grocery shopping is I feel like it takes so long to get in and out of the grocery store. I'm always trying to look for what I need and I can't necessarily find it in the right aisles. So I end up getting lost and hopefully I'm just looking for three things and it turns into a half an hour shopping spree. So with Factor's ready to eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the groceries, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef crafted, dietitian approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, plus 55 weekly add ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rush dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. Feel up fast with restaurant quality meals, all delivered right to your door. Head to factormeals.com/lockedonmlb50 and use code lockedonmlb50 to get 50% off. That's locked on MLB50 at factormeals.com/lockedonmlb50 to get 50% off. All right. So the MLB has come out with its top 100 prospects in the league. And unfortunately, the Jays only have two of them. And Ricky Tiedemann is one of them, coming in at 29. Or Elvis Martinez is the other one at 89. And a guy that we referenced last episode, in the trade for Mitch White, Nick Frasso is also on this list, unfortunately at 80 for the Blue Jays. As compared to the rest of the league, and especially their division, the Blue Jays aren't looking great in their farm system right now. The Jays are at 23 and the Yankees are at 19, but the Yankees doesn't really matter with their prospect system because they can just buy any player on the market. You've seen that with Soto. You've seen that with Stanton, all these other guys throughout history with the Yankees. And then with the other three teams, they're all in the top 10. We have the Rays at 7, the Red Sox at 3, and the Orioles at 1 somehow still, with Grayson Rodriguez, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, all this great young talent already in the MLB. So with this, Braden, how do you feel about the Blue Jays standings in these farm systems?
Well, not good. I mean, like, we have to make a clear decision now of what we're doing. This is the time that we have nobody to go to if Bo and Vladdy decide to leave in the next 2 years, or, give or take, right? So we have to be in the full on mindset, and Ross has to be in the full on mindset of we have to try to win now. Because if we're going to keep being in this middle mush, not being able to make a playoff push, and then it becomes time for Vlad and Bo to either move on or they start to drop off, we have nobody coming up. So I'm getting almost impatient because us looking at this and other fans looking at this are probably know at this time what we have to do. And what we have to do is decide, okay, we're all in. Let's go. Next 3 years, bang. Let's try to go make a huge run.
Yeah, one good thing about prospects is just that they're prospects, right? They aren't proven talent. Not to say like obviously Ricky Tiedemann and like these rankings don't mean anything, but yeah, they're prospects. They're unproven. Who's to say that these players are actually going to turn out, right? But obviously, it does help when you have a lot more chances at getting these young developing players to develop through the systems and have a chance at starting the MLB. With the Blue Jays, one big problem as well is a lot of teams over the year, they have 1, 2, 3 guys that they can kind of reference and be like, hey, if this guy is struggling, we can pull this guy up. We have depth in the minor leagues. And while the Jays have that with their pitching, as for their lineup, the only player I can really see even having a chance of cracking their starting lineup in the minors right now is Elvis Martinez. I don't even think Ricky Tiedemann will come up this year with how much depth that this starting rotation has.
You know what? Somebody who doesn't get enough love is Addison Barger, and I think if he can have one like really good season in the minors, I think his upside is there to the point that we could pull him up and he maybe could do some damage. Sort of like a Davis Schneider where you pull him up and maybe he goes off that like first little bit, right? And then he starts to get, regulated into the league and people start to figure him out. But it's very possible that happens with Addison Barger, barring, injury, but I could definitely see it happening.
Oh, absolutely. If this guy kind of comes into training camp and spring training and is hitting for power, just showing off his skills, we have right now, if we're not, it doesn't seem like we're signing Chapman. I mean, there is all these reports that are saying we are in them. Then you see a report the next day are saying like, oh, Matt Chapman's not interested. There's so much different things coming on Matt Chapman. So in my head, I don't even have him coming to the Blue Jays. Obviously, this could change in a few weeks, but right now there's a big gap at third base and it's very limited offensive upside. So with Aurelus Martinez and Aston Barger, if you're seeing one of these two guys step up at the plate, I think that if you're going to commit to giving them the time at third base or second base, wherever you want to put these guys, you have to just commit to starting them, commit to the process. You see, like with Espinal, you've seen his service time now. He's kind of, you know what he is. He's going to be a 240, 250 hitter, provide decent defense. IKF obviously going to provide better defense. So Espinal, I don't really see having a place on this team. But yeah, I feel like I'm a broken record every time we come on this podcast. I'm saying we need bats, we need bats, we need bats. And we're just not getting the bats. So if we're not going to get them from free agency, hopefully we can get them from within.
And that's what you hope, right? When you look at these prospect rankings, you hope that you can find some up and coming MLB talent. But looking at ours right now, like what we got a possibility of 3 guys in our whole system right now that are possibilities of being MLB talent. That's not a good look. So what that's saying to me is Ross needs to make moves to bring guys in, or we gotta start moving on. Not that I think that's the right decision. I think the right decision is getting guys, but he's not in that mindset right now. Otherwise, we would have had a player signed by now.
Yeah, just looking at these other rosters and their prospects, the Jays only have 2 to 3 guys that they can really bring up here. And in looking at the Orioles, you're looking at the Rays, the Red Sox, they have a ton of guys in the system, and the Orioles are looking good now. The Rays are looking good now. So if we get 5 years down the road, I think the Jays are going to be in a very, very hard spot with competing with the Rays, Red Sox, Yankees. They might be at the bottom of the division. Who knows? Who knows what direction they're going to decide to go in here? But if you like, the Jays are running out of time. In my opinion, they have 3 years to win a World Series. They can't win in 3 years. It is going to be a hard trek to even make the playoffs in this division. You saw last year, all these AL East teams are looking so good throughout the entire year. The Yankees, the only one going under 500 with that huge downfall they had near the end of the season. So it's win now mode, to say it simply.
Yeah.
Ross has to make a move. He has to do something else to this team because I don't think that there is enough talent on this roster looking at it right now, unless you have huge bounce back years and hopefully get something out of a player that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
And don't get me wrong, we don't want to. We're not trying to downplay. We have a lot of good MLB talent right now that's playing for us, but we're not seeing the consistency in this roster as a whole to win a World Series. So, in my opinion, you bring in 1 or 2 guys that could make that difference, and you hope that Vlad or Bo continues, and then that Vlad can up his year or up his stats this year, and then I think you're looking good. I think this team has a lot of potential. It's just we need guys to get hot at the same time, and that's a lot to ask for in 162 games, right?
That is true. Like you see it last year with the Rangers getting hot at the right time. Nobody really expected them to win the World Series. So it all matters. You just need all your guys to kind of get on the same page at once. Hopefully build some momentum throughout the season, figure out their swings, figure out what they want to do with their plate at the plate with their approach. And hopefully they can make a deep run. And one thing with this Jays team right now as well that we have touched on, even if you get success out of these young players, who is like, we have Kevin Kiermaier, who's sort of done it. We have George Springer that's done it. But other than that, as a veteran presence, as a positional player, there's not a lot of veteran experience on this team. No, like other than the wild card round, the Jays haven't really done much in the last few years. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get past the wild card round, how their roster is going to hold up throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, as we go through these player profiles, we're going to be touching on every player, how they fit in this lineup, where we think that they can go this season. And we have 2 guys that we're going to get into right away. But before we get into these player profiles, Carter, Chiefs win.
Yeah, the Chiefs are unfortunately back in the Super Bowl. I'm not happy about it. I don't think a lot of other NFL fans are happy about it, but they do win 17-10. And I would like to take the opportunity to let you guys know about our first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On has launched its first ever national streaming channel. There's a lot of cool NBA stuff going on. Obviously, the NFL playoffs, NHL is getting close to the All-Star deadline. We're going to see how that functions going down the stretch. But Locked On is here for all of your national news. If you want to tune in 3 a.m., 3 p.m., 4 a.m., after lunch, whatever you want to do, it's always there. It's always available. So just go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to Locked On's first ever national 24/7 streaming channel.
As Carter said, it's going to be a Chiefs Super Bowl. And right now is a great time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays, which I will be utilizing in 2 weekends. Absolutely hammering the live same game parlays because changes in the game, I might want to switch up my bets, put a few extra down. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to find new bets in the new Explore tab, which allows me to search for anything I could possibly think of to bet on. And I'm going to make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, which, you know what? When the Super Bowl comes around, I love to get in. It's going to be a disgusting amount of betting going on. I've got a couple buddies as well that last year we went, and a couple of them won, a couple of them lost badly, but there's tons of ways to get in on the fun. So visit fanduel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So we got another episode or segment of our player profiles. Now, today we got a couple of interesting players that we're going to go over. Carter, I'll send it to you for the first one.
Yeah, so we got two positional players today. The first one we're going to start with is Spencer Horwitz. Spencer Horwitz, the first baseman, selected in the 2019 MLB draft. Didn't really see a lot of them until kind of the summer, I would say. It was July, August. Obviously, that was then Davis Schneider got pulled up, Spencer Horwitz, a few other guys throughout the system. Kind of just checking in when we needed him. Vladdy needed a day off. Obviously, Brandon Belt was hurt a little bit throughout the year, so he filled in when he needed to. And he kind of did his job, I would say, when he filled in. I was pretty happy with the performances we were getting from Spencer Horwitz. I can quickly get into some of the stats here. He only had 15 games played, 1 home run, 7 RBIs, 12 strikeouts, but a 256 batting average and a 385 slugging. Obviously not popping off the stat sheet, but I'm with what he was expected to do. Like I said, I'm very happy with it. I think he fulfilled this role. Braden, how do you feel?
Yeah, same sort of thing, right? He did his job. He knew what he was coming in to do. And yeah, I sort of like the look of him. I think if he gets a little bit more opportunity, I think we can really find out where he's going to be. And I think the spring training is going to be huge for him, just in the sense of being able to either show what he's worth or maybe make room for some other guys coming up through the system.
I agree. Yeah. With this Jays, again, with this Jays prospect pool, the problem that I had was just you're not giving these guys opportunity. These guys are coming up and they're just sitting on the bench. Horwitz, I think, got probably the worst out of all the prospects and the minor leaguers that came up this year. He played, it seemed like kind of once every 2 weeks, which is so hard to do. You're not getting live at bats. You're not seeing live pitching. You're not confident out there because you're only getting 1 to 4 at bats in a 2-week time frame. Obviously, you're getting it in practice, stuff like that, but it's not the same. And it really impacts your confidence. It really impacts your comfortability at the plate. And it's tough to see success when you're only playing like that.
Yeah, for sure. And that sort of brings me to sort of another guy that we're going to talk about, and that's Ernie Clement. And he's got 29 games played, 1 home run, 10 RBIs, uh, a 380 batting average, and a 500 slugging percentage. So again, another guy that sort of didn't get maybe as much playing time as he would have liked. But he got in there more than Horwitz did. So do you feel better about Ernie than you do about Horwitz?
Last year, Ernie looked great. He really only played when Bo Bichette was out, but with a team that was struggling to hit, Ernie came in and did more than expected. A 380 batting average. That in that time frame, other than maybe Davis Schneider, he was probably one of the best players on this team. we were getting carried by our minor league roster in the tough months of the year, July, August, September, which is like your crunch time. If we didn't have these players come in and fill the roles that they did, I don't think the Jays would have made the playoffs. The like you had Matt Chapman, Alejandro Kirk, Vladdy, all these guys just looking like a shell of themselves, not having just laughable at bats. And you're getting carried by Ernie Clement, whose defense looked great as well. He looked absolutely at home. And it kind of sucks that this guy couldn't get more opportunity with the Jays. Obviously, for him, unfortunately, you're going to have to take Bo Bichette over his play. But I was kind of hoping that he would take more second base reps from Whit Merrifield at the end of the year because that's how good he looked.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that maybe they give him a shot this year and try to fill him into some roles. Maybe that, obviously he's not going to play over Bo, but maybe in that second base slot once in a while or that third base slot that we can utilize him, right? There's going to be a lot of turnover at third. Maybe that's a possibility for him. I obviously want to see more, and I think spring training will be, again, another big outlet for these guys to make a good case for themselves. And yeah, I don't know. I'm very happy with both these guys. Honestly, I'm very excited for spring training just to see where they're at, especially after the off season. They get their, they come in, they play some games, but now with the off season, with the training possibility, how are you looking to start this season, and will you be able to crack this roster?
Yeah, I think if Ernie can keep up what he was doing last year, I don't see why you don't give this guy a chance. He looked like, honestly, an everyday starting shortstop when he was playing. He has great play coverage, great eye, got on base a lot. He did everything you asked for.
Yeah.
And when you look at this team now, if you have any sort of struggles at third base with IKF or Santiago Espinal, or even at second, if Kevin Biggio goes through a stretch where he struggles, like you got to kind of play to their hand, right? You got to see who's hot and who's not at the right times. And I think that, especially with Ernie Clement, they should give him a shot if he continues success in spring training. Same thing with Spencer Horwitz, a younger guy. Obviously, again, with Vladdy at first base, hopefully having a bounce back year. But same thing, if you want to give Vladdy some time off, I would have no problem throwing Spencer Horwitz in. He had a lot of clutch hits last year. Obviously, like I said, the stats don't pop off the page, but you give this guy more opportunity. You give all these guys more opportunity for maybe a full year to see what they can do. And they're obviously going to have more upside than the people we have at their positions right now. IKF, he's not going to be hitting home runs. He's not going to be in the extra base hits. And Espinal, we kind of covered him already. Not going to get too much from the offensive side as well. So with this Jays team, if you can get any upside from these minor league players, and I think you got to play to that. You got to play to what their potential could be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I just do want to mention, because this is a huge next couple weeks for the NFL. So make sure you guys tune in to Locked On's new National Sports 27 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel. I also want to, shout out our Twitters as well. A couple of you guys have come across and subscribe to me. I'm not sure about you, Carter, but we've been loving the comments as well lately. You guys have been killing it there. We've just had a blast so far being able to cover this Blue Jays team. And we want to have a couple fun segments, like our golf one that Carter did. We got a couple more, looking back at some of the history of the Blue Jays, that 2015-16 run, some players that have been, Jays for life or longtime Jays. So we're going to get into a lot of that, especially over the next couple weeks leading up to spring training. And then we're going to get hard into spring training coverage and then into the regular season. So we're pumped. We got a couple special things lined up coming your way in the next few weeks too. So we're going to we'll let you know about that when the time comes. But we want to, of course, always thank you guys so much for watching. Check out the Twitters, Braden 5 Wasco, Carter First 2. And we'll see you guys